What is going on, guys? I'm back here with just, as I always like to say, another quick video. Who knows how this one will turn out. You know, as I've said before, I don't like to script my videos, but I figured I'd give my thoughts on what's happening with TNA. I'd say from about, 2004, 2003 to about 2009, basically until Hogan and Bischoff arrived, I identified as a TNA fan. Obviously, throughout the history of the company, there have just been, you know, I heard, I believe it was on MLW radio, basically saying, every time they take a step forward, they take three, 3 to 5 steps back, and it's absolutely true, which is why they are, currently in the situation they are now, where they're making, they're making cuts and everything. Apparently are just hemorrhaging, or maybe not hemorrhaging, but are just, losing money hand over fist, which I guess is pretty equal comparison. But losing money hand over fist by taking Impact on the road, and of course now they can't go back to the Impact Zone, meaning they are in a pretty rough spot. I don't really think too many people are surprised TNA is in this spot. Um, I mean, like I said, they've had a history of being just inconsistent throughout their whole history. Every time something good happens, they always just take a step back, especially with inconsistencies in storylines, events that happen where they just don't explain any of it and drop the concept. It's so tough. I mean, I haven't been able to identify as a TNA fan in a long time because of this. Um, and now, if you look at the current situation, a lot of people, past couple of years have said, "Oh, TNA won't survive till the end of the year." I think this time you can really think to yourself and have a serious thought of, wow, will TNA actually make it to the end of the year? Um, I mean, the fact is, I'm expecting more cuts to happen at some point, but when you really look at it, TNA is just doing this to themselves. I really do think there are easy solutions. Obviously, other people have said this, so I'm not breaking any news here. But there are other solutions that they can do to really turn this around, or at least, put some duct tape over this hemorrhaging wound to at least try and stop the bleeding and give yourself some time to think, okay, what are we doing here long term? Which honestly is something TNA has never done. Storyline wise, decision wise, in terms of, oh, let's move Impact to Monday nights. Let's tape it. Let's not tape it. Let's move out of the Impact Zone and start running venues. Let's run Lockdown in a 60,000 seat arena, but only section it off so there's about, 2,000 seats available, and then not even sell that out. I'd say that's the big issue. What they need to do is realize their standing. If they want to call themselves the #2 promotion in the world, rightfully they can. But just because you're the #2 promotion in the world doesn't mean you're even close to being near WWE. Calling yourself the #2 promotion right now doesn't mean shit. That's it's just unbelievable that the egos on the people inside of TNA. I mean, yeah, call yourself the #2 promotion, but I'm trying to think of an analogy here, but I mean, I don't think an analogy is really needed. Just think about that. No matter how, if you can definitively name yourself the #2 promotion, it doesn't matter. WWE is just miles and miles ahead of anybody else, and it's going to stay that way. Arena football is bigger competition to the NFL than TNA is to WWE, in my honest opinion. That might be a bit of a stretch, but I mean, it's pretty much on the same level. TNA, the only reason it's around is they have Spike TV. Luckily for them, they re-signed in, I think, 2011, and their deal doesn't expire for another 1 to 2 years, I believe. So Lord knows what Spike TV is going to do with them by the time that expires. But I mean, right now, if you look at TNA, think to yourself, what can we do to, since they're apparently losing so much money, what can you do to cut costs? First off, stop with the stupid one-night-only pay-per-views. As far as I'm aware, and I'll be honest, I haven't checked, but I remember TNA in the past averaging like 9,000 buys was a decent average for them, or at least a regular average. So you got to expect around now, TNA is probably getting 6 to 9,000 buys per pay-per-view. Normal pay-per-views such as Lockdown, Bound for Glory. A taped show that has where no matches mean anything. There's no build up to any of these matches. It's just gimmick matches. There's no way they're equaling that level. They'll be lucky to reach half. So basically, you're putting on these shows, bringing in talent who aren't full-timers anymore, or who aren't even with your company, and paying them for something where it's not even going to generate. It probably won't even generate the money back. I do not understand that. Cut those out. You said you wanted to cut down you wanted to lower the pay-per-view limit. Then lower the fucking pay-per-view limit. You want your big four or big five? Have your big four or big five, and say once a month, maybe put on a special 3-hour Impact. What that seems more logical than putting on one night only pay-per-views. Work out a deal with Spike TV where every once in a while, once a month you can put on a 3-hour Impact. Anything is better than doing the one night only pay-per-views right now. They are a complete waste of money, and that's one of the big reasons TNA is floundering right now. A second reason, I think a lot of people know. They need to do what WCW did in the early to mid 90s. Stop running house shows. You are not good enough. You're not drawing well enough to run house shows. Obviously, the house show last weekend, where half the roster couldn't even compete, drew 200 to 300 people. WCW back in the mid to early 90s, I think it was 94. They cut out house shows because they realized it wasn't doing anything. Sure, the internet fans would be like, "Oh, look, TNA, they're not running house shows anymore. They suck." As it may be a sign of weakness, but at this point, TNA's reputation cannot get much worse. And I really don't think eliminating house shows is a cost-cutting measure, where in essence you're having to just pay talent more, pay for building expenses more. It just makes sense to cut them out and run Impact. And then when it comes to Impact, stop, for the love of God, stop getting bigger arenas that you can't fill. Getting anything over a 1,500-seat arena, in my opinion, is ridiculous. Because you're not going to fill anything bigger. That's TNA's biggest problem, is they're trying to be bigger than what they are. And if you look back through history at other wrestling promotions, when companies do that, they go under. The AWA of Vern Gagne tried to compete more with Vince McMahon, expand more. He went under. Jim Crockett Promotions, he went, from Chicago, where he was hot, obviously out from, Mid-Atlantic, expanded to Chicago. And guys like Dusty Rhodes have said it. The second he moved past Chicago, he was fucked. Because too much money was being spent, not enough coming in, tried to expand too quick, didn't realize your place in the business, you went under. WCW, the same thing, well, mainly it was the contracts, but you get the point. The reason why certain indies have stuck around for a while, say like CZW, no matter how much of a niche promotion it is, say like Chikara, even though they're on, in what is my opinion, a storyline hiatus, the reason they've stuck around is because they realized their place in wrestling. Whether it's Hogan and Bischoff, telling Dixie, "Hey, we can do this, brother," Jack, dude, whatever. It's just, I forget who said it. I think it was Dr. Tom Pritchard. He gave an interview about, his brother Bruce Pritchard being released, and he basically said, from what I've heard, the problems start at the top. And that's usually the way it is. You look at WCW, the reason they failed was the people in charge. The reason TNA is failing is the people in charge. Bruce Pritchard, it was a great move to fire him multiple times during his, reign. He let guys' contracts expire. That's ridiculous. how, apparently, Devon's contract, even though it looks storyline that, his contract expired. Of course, Bobby Roode was the huge one, letting his contract expire. They let Doc's contract expire, which I hope to God WWE brings him back. I think he still has a lot of potential. But I mean, there's really simple moves that you can do to save yourselves at this point. I mean, TNA, I'd want to call it the Titanic, but they're not deserving of the name. They're like one of the dinghies that went off the Titanic and then hit a secondary iceberg, and now they're sinking fast. I mean, it really is sad to see what's happening. Of course, the other night it was the whole hashtag Ask Dixie thing, which how the fuck, whoever let her do that. Well, then again, she is the owner. But whatever PR person decided that was a good fucking idea to let her go ahead and do that, good. They need to be fired. I mean, like I said, this is an on-the-fly rant, and if even one person made it to this point, God bless you, I swear. But yeah, this is just a way for me, generalize my thoughts here. But it's incredible to me how a promotion that had a solid fan base still has a solid fan base. I mean, you think about it, they still average near 1 million viewers a week for Impact, yet they only sell 9,000 pay-per-views. Blame it on, illegal streaming. And part of the reason why people, stream it illegally is because it's not good enough on its own to warrant the buy. But anyway, I guess I'll end this all over the place rant. I mean, it's sad to see what's happening. When, fact is, it's another place to work. Anytime a company like this starts to go downhill, it is unfortunate for the wrestling business. Um, that's just facts. I mean, less places to work. Eventually, it's probably going to just be down to, very, very small locals and WWE doing their thing. I think at this point, TNA, if, like I said, if they survive the year, I'd be absolutely shocked. But, yeah, it's sad to see what's going on. But in wrestling, who knows? Maybe they'll somehow turn it around. I doubt it, especially with Dixie Carter at the helm. But anyway, I'll end this one for now. Thank you for listening. If you've made it this far, like I said, I can't believe it. But thank you, and I will see you guys next time.